Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, this is going to be fun. I would like to say I have been here 28 times, and so I'm a little bit teary right now because I didn't realize that. And the years have gone by, and Julie's dad was a very good friend of mine, former board member of National Health Federation, and he started these expos, and before he passed, they were in different locations, and it's just an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with Julie Klein and her whole family and her whole team keeping us all coming together like a family. So thank you for being here. And then I just want to also say that I did write a book, and I wrote a book about a farmer case that I was on when I first started my health freedom work, where he was put in jail for practicing medicine without a license because he was giving colostrum to people. And he cured Congressman Berkeley Bedell of Lyme disease. And so I gave you the story of this wonderful, wonderful experience I had helping on that case. And then I also gave you the story of passing the Minnesota law to protect all the herbalists and colostrum healers and everyone else. I was in Minnesota. And so that's in the book, and then all about the principles of health freedom. And I don't sell these books personally. I just ask you to go and get one if you want one. So they're on Amazon. The publisher is iUniverse, and they have blocked iUniverse from putting ads on Facebook about the book, but you can still get it from iUniverse directly, or you can get it on Amazon, I guess. It's still there. So this morning, I'd like to just educate you about the work of our organization and around the country, people working on health freedom. And we're going to just focus on a couple things. And my specialty area of interest is shaping laws that reflect our evolution as a people. So shaping laws is what I'm going to be talking about today. So there are two areas of law that we're going to talk about today. One is, if you're a practitioner, what are your rights to practice the healing arts? And the second area is, what's your right to refuse or decline things that go into your body, even in an emergency. So we'll start with the practice of healing arts. So I am a big advocate of law being the voice of our freedom. And I am an attorney, so I guess that would make sense. But, we're a country of laws, and a lot of people don't know what the laws are. In fact, when I represented the farmer, I went, how could they put a farmer in jail for practicing medicine? And I had already graduated from law school, and I didn't know what the law was. And that law was extremely weird to me. I just didn't know how they would do that. So we are a country of laws. We're not a monarch. We're not, hopefully we won't be run by corporations for the rest of our lives. We're going to turn that around. So we're going to look at what the laws say. That's what I want to talk about today. So the right to heal yourself or other people. There are state laws that would say practicing the healing arts. So the states are really in charge of practicing the healing arts. That's not the federal government's jurisdiction, generally speaking. These are general observations. And federal law is where you have all of the laws for dietary supplements. And many of you vendors out there are moving products or medical devices that you have to really watch the federal laws on these things. And those are two different things: healing a person and giving out a supplement. And a lot of people do both of those things. They're using a supplement to assess a person. So I'll just talk about that a little bit. So first question is, are you helping someone with a health problem? Any of you? Yeah, look at all these healers. All right. So here's the law that the farmer had to be up against. You're practicing medicine if you offer or undertake to prevent or diagnose, correct or treat by any means, methods, devices, or instrumentalities any disease, illness, pain, wound, fracture, infirmity, deformity, or defect of any person. So, if you do any of those things, and how many of you might do any of those things, you could be charged criminally for practicing medicine without a license. Now, there are exemptions to this statute in some states. Like, for example, in Massachusetts, there's an exemption for clairvoyance. You can imagine why, you know. And in Iowa, there's an exemption for people that heal people with the spring water from their farm. And so there's, in the cultures of the different states, there's different exemptions, but in Minnesota, and most states have a religious exemption if you're a Christian Scientist or some other. So we passed a bill in Minnesota that exempted all of these healing practices out of the Medical Practice Act after the farmer case. And so we just started writing like little citizens, what would we like on that list? And then we put including but not limited to. So we exempted all of these things out of the medical practice criminal charges. So here's the law in the state of Washington. Anybody who offers to undertake to diagnose, cure, advise, whether it's a mental or real and imaginary issue that the person has, you could still be shut down for practicing medicine without a license. State of Maine, this is their statute diagnosing, relieving in any degree, or curing, or professing, or attempting to diagnose, relieve. These are criminal statutes in the states that we have. Maine has passed an exemption. Wisconsin, to examine, in fact, condition or cause human health or disease by any means or instrumentalities. So when people are healing, you have to know what your state law says about what healers can do. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to encourage the reliance of another person upon an individual's knowledge or skill. Unbelievable. You can go to jail for that if you're not a medical doctor. State of Maryland. Now, the naturopathic physicians have gone forward and gotten licensing in many states, but sadly enough, the traditional naturopaths are not protected under those bills. So in Maryland, the naturopathic medical doctors went forward and they got a very broad definition of the practice of naturopathic medicine. And then they put exemptions in. Can I just go back to here? But it's a felony if you practice naturopathy in Maryland if you're not a naturopathic medical doctor. And the definition of the Naturopathic Medical Doctor Practice Act is very broad. It's almost worse than the practice of medicine because it defines naturopathy very basically and says if you don't have a medical license, you're. So Kansas says, recognizing that the practice of healing arts is a privilege granted by a legislative authority and is not a natural right of individuals. Yeah. Yeah, there's the law. So how do we change laws is what we're going to be talking about. So when we saw these criminal laws after we passed the Minnesota bill, we thought, oh yeah, we'll just get up to speed with everybody else. But we didn't realize everybody else, we were the first ones to go and get the exemption. So we started an organization to help these states pass safe harbor practitioner exemption laws. So I just want you to know a little bit about us. We have 3 attorneys now working in our organization, and we're grateful for all your donations because that's how we survive. And we research and draft laws. We strategic conference call. You can meet with us every week with your group and we can teach you how to do things. We lobby, we travel, we give testimony, we give alerts out. So we have a team that is helping people change these laws. But you have to do the work. So we just tell you how to do the work. So So we have worked with a group of 5 homeopaths. They were very brave homeopaths, and they wanted to set up a clinic, and somebody told them they were going to be practicing medicine without a license in Massachusetts, and they went, wow, what do we do? So they got together, and we met with them every week, and they drafted the right to practice complementary and alternative health care, and it passed. They're the most recent one that passed. So they're exempt from the criminal charges. Here's 2 of the homeopaths in the rotunda of the Capitol with their little boards, and they were very dedicated. It was very incredible to watch them. So this is some of the prohibited acts. This is what they were up against. So let's see, discontinuance, prescribing, administering. So if you're not doing these things in Maine right now, you cannot be charged. So if you're not performing surgery, if you're not giving out radiation, if you're not doing medications that are licensed, you know, these are the things that you have to avoid. And if you avoid these things, you can practice in Maine. In Nevada, we passed a health freedom bill there. And these are the things that are exempt from criminal charges. Anthroposophy, aromatherapy, traditional cultural healing acts. But in Nevada, there is a licensed homeopathic law, and the homeopaths were not added to this list because the homeopathic medical doctors came and opposed the homeopathy being on this wellness statute. New Mexico, they exempted out of all the practice acts. You're not liable for practicing medicine, chiropractic, massage, and no practice acts. And they put everything that they could think of in their exemption laws. So all of these things are safe to practice in New Mexico. In Massachusetts, right now, going forward in Massachusetts, we have a safe harbor practitioner bill. And it's moving, and when COVID happened, it was on the way to the Senate, and everything stopped, and they had to start all over. So right now, they're waiting for a hearing. This is Massachusetts Safe Harbor Bill, waiting for a hearing. And so if you write to your legislators, if you're from Massachusetts, we want to move that bill with them. Here's some of the activists working in Massachusetts. Wisconsin, same thing. Wisconsin has, they had to start all over, and we were already almost past. And that's okay, welcome. And so Wisconsin has now passed the Senate. It's in the House, we've had hearings, and that group in Wisconsin is waiting for the results to see if it goes to the floor. And here's us working with some of the Wisconsin leaders on a cold, rainy day. So when you start working on a bill to move in your state, we will help you. And one of the ways we can help is to put out an alert on your bill and tell all the people in your state to write to their legislator, put in your zip code here, write your letter, and it'll automatically go to the people either on the committee or all your own legislators. So this, on our website, this is kind of what it looks like when you go to the action section. You'll see Massachusetts, California. These are all alerts that we've put out to help the people on the ground with the work that they're doing. And here's our safe harbor status report. Here's the states that we have safe harbor bills in. And here's my own handmade map of how I keep track. So if you're red on here, you're pretty active. We've actually started getting legislators calling our organization to put a bill in, but there's no group around them, so they don't move the bill, but they want to put the bill in. So Connecticut, Iowa, North Dakota have all had legislators put bills in. Wisconsin and Massachusetts are right now moving. Oregon is getting ready to move. Georgia. Georgia means that you have introduced a bill in the past, but the group is not active right now. Like they either disbanded their group or something, some change happened. But this is over 20 years. I've been doing this a long time. So There was a group in Georgia that happened. And in Georgia, interestingly enough, the group that worked in Georgia tried for 7 years to get their bill passed and never passed it. But they had a room at the Capitol, and they staffed it with all their healers, and they brought legislators down there to get healing during the session all the time. So they did that for like 2 years. And the cops came one day to shut them down for practicing medicine without a license, and all the legislators came down and chased them out of the buildings. And pink is, we know people there that are interested, they just haven't gotten a group together yet to meet and get it moving. So there are people interested in the pink ones. Wait, we don't have connection with a group there. Yeah. But most states, we have like 1 or 2 contacts. If you're interested, just let us know. So these are some of the, so these state groups, then they go on to do other great things in the world. Once they get the hang of how to pass bills and stuff, then they start working on other issues. Practitioner rights, vaccine exemption rights, COVID, a lot of these issues come up. And once you learn that you're a citizen that can actually change laws, that's what happens. So let's move on to the right to, any questions about the safe harbor bills? We're happy to take them later. But I'm going to move on because we don't have a lot of time. So this is a special part of the PowerPoint that I have developed over the last 18 months, just to give a sense of what's happening on the right to refuse issues. So my questions, and a lot of people calling us, will concentration of power and money and the owners of technology dominate and replace our government? That's the question right now. Will the government of the people, by the people, and for the people perish from this earth? And that's where we're at. We're at the crossroads of, will the American dream survive? And will the people of America be able to protect the spirit of America? So, emergency orders. You were told, stay at home, lose your job, social distance, wear a mask, get vaccinated, and a lot more things. This is the big question. Many people call, can governors do this? What's going on? So I want to just tell you a little bit about governor powers. States have the right to take care of your body physically. The federal government is about interstate commerce, generally speaking, and national disasters, but states have the power to tell you about what to do with your body. So you have a state constitution, generally. You have state statutes from your House of Representatives and your Senate. You have state administration regulations, and you have a governor that makes executive orders. And they used to not make a lot of executive orders, and now they're figuring out that they can. Okay, so the state constitution, for example, of Minnesota says Minnesota was instituted for the security, benefit, and protection of the people in whom all political power is inherent. So you got to remember, the power of the government is inherent in the people, and people forget that. State statutes, state lawmakers pass laws, but the crux of the problem right now is that, like, as in Attorney Jonathan Emord has educated you, the legislators delegated power to the governor, to agencies, they delegated their lawmaking power to these different entities. And in this case, right after 9/11, all the states were giving a model act to expand the powers of their governor so that they could take action more readily in case of a bioterrorist attack, because they said they were afraid that there was going to be bioterrorism after 9/11. So they went into every state and they put in a model health emergency bioterrorism act. So they delegated that authority and expanded the authority of the governors. So this is the statute for Minnesota. This is the governor's statute powers during a national security emergency declared, blah, 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 resulting from an incident at a nuclear power plant that posed a radiological or other health hazard may assume direct operational control over all parts of the emergency. So in your Governor Powers Act, in your state, it will tell you what they delegated, and Minnesota delegated for health emergencies, and it was any health emergency. And then 2 years later, they took it back and made it a little bit more narrow. But the Model Emergency Powers Acts were very, very broad. So this is what the ACLU stated when this was all happening, the model legislation to increase state powers to respond to bioterrorism or outbreaks of disease from the Center for Disease Control. Although it's needed, the current draft of the Model Act unfortunately is written in a way that doesn't adequately protect citizens against the misuse of tremendous powers that it would grant in an emergency. Well, that was written 20 years ago, right? When the Model Acts were going forward. And when they came to Minnesota with that Model Act, we just happened to be there because of the Safe Harbor Bill. And we were still citizens, and we were like, what are they trying to do now? And we read it, and they said, if you're a doctor and there's a health emergency and you don't do what the governor says, you go to jail. And we went, that's not right. And what happens if they try to take your body away or your kids away or what? So we wrote a bill and we passed it in Minnesota called the Right to Refuse Law. And it was a fundamental right to refuse any kind of treatment. This was 20 years ago. We thought everybody did that. We were the only state that did that, but we thought everybody was doing that because we didn't know. So this is what we passed 20 years ago. A refusal of treatment notwithstanding laws and orders made or promulgated in response to national emergency, individuals have a fundamental right to refuse medical treatment, testing, physical or mental exam, vaccination, participation in our experimental procedures, and And then we didn't go on to the coercion piece because we were naive. We didn't know we were going to be coerced into doing things. So we stated we have a fundamental right, but so what? You have the right? Well, we won't let you have your job. Or, so we didn't get the coercion piece in there. So this is an example of a law that passed in California many years ago. And it says that the department can take possession or control of the body of any living person or the corpse of any diseased person during a contagious infectious disease. These are laws that are on the books in the states. And citizens need to know what the laws are that are making this all happen. So right when COVID happened, they started, everybody's going, can governors do this? We got to challenge this. They gave too much power away to these governors in the Model Acts. So here's a positive Wisconsin case. The Supreme Court of Wisconsin overturned its governor's stay-at-home order with judicial comments. And the comment was, it is especially in times of emergency that we must protect the rights of the people, lest we establish a dangerous precedent empowering less benevolent government officials in the future to oppress the people in the name of exigency. So that was great. That was at the beginning of COVID. They just overturned the stay-at-home orders, then they just made another one. But the courts were on this in Wisconsin. In Pennsylvania, they even cited the Jacobson case. So they overturned the restrictions on gatherings, closing non-life sustaining businesses, and directing Pennsylvanians to stay at home. They said it was unconstitutional. So we had some good judges, but they were all in the media touted as Trump people. And then they were challenged in Michigan as well. The Supreme Court of the state of Michigan declaring Michigan's Emergency Powers of Governors Acts unconstitutional. Purports to delegate to the executive branch the legislative powers of the state government, including its plenary police powers, and to allow the exercise of such powers indefinitely. So they really tried to challenge these governor powers. So that was 2020, when they were challenging governor powers and trying to figure out what was going on. But in 2021, the landscape kept changing. So I just made a list of things that were happening in 2021. Extension of the governor emergencies. They would just they're supposed to be 60 days, but then they would extend them to 60 days. Somebody's telling me Illinois is still in a state of emergency. So the legislators are not able in many states to quelch the governor emergency orders. So the governors are continuing to put out mandates. The Californians are really struggling right now with the children vaccines. The State Department of Health regular powers are being used as well. So even the State Department regular powers are very expansive in some states. Like you saw California take the body of a living person. That's not under an emergency order. That's their regular law. So local cities and counties mandates, you might have heard some of the cities are doing things worse than the governors, and some of the counties are doing things worse than the governors. Corporations making their own mandates, and that's what President Biden has now tried to do, is get the federal government involved in what can happen to your body. And they couldn't figure out how they were going to get the federal government involved because it's a state purview. And what they did is went, oh, we could use a federal agency, OSHA, that deals with workplace safety and try and mandate the vaccine based on the fact that it's a workplace hazard. So that's the workaround that they're trying to get around with the constitutional. And these cases going forward are going to be challenging those things. Lawsuits against corporations and institutions, states passing laws. So that's what our Right to Refuse project is. States trying to pass laws to take back some of our power. Legislative terminating governor powers. Economic crisis, polarization. So this is just a list of stuff that's happening, right? And you all are aware of all of those. So what we decided to do, and we have a staff person here, Julie, right there, and she liked our Minnesota Right to Refuse law, and she said, why don't we do that nationally? We got to get things going. Okay, so we started the righttorefuse.org, and Massachusetts leader, Julie, there's California leaders, there's a Vermont leader, and our organization decided to just do informally. We didn't incorporate or anything. We just said, we're going to do a righttorefuse.org. Our organization donated the website for it, so we had web people make it. And so we're determined to track what's happening in the United States with the people's attempt to take back their powers. So this map, if you go to this website, it's an interactive map. If you click on your state, it will show you what bills are running in your state that we can support. It doesn't have any opposition bills on it, just the bills that the people should support to take back their rights. If you're yellow on this map, you've already passed some kind of law. Minnesota has our 20-year-old law there. And they're not all perfect laws. They're not all comprehensive. Some are in masking, some are in school stuff. But if you're gray on here, you've got laws, you've got bills moving, but they haven't passed yet. If you're white, we don't have any bills moving that we're tracking yet, but we're going to load this. And right now we're getting about 100 bills a week that we're reviewing. We have 3 attorneys. We're reviewing all these bills to see what we can put on this website. We're also looking for who's the organization on the ground in your state that is working at the Capitol. We're not going to put other organizations that are just supportive of the things. We want to know who's putting the bills in, who's in touch with our legislator. So I should have brought in, anyway, if you go to that website, you'll bring it up, and there'll be a left-hand column that'll give you the organization in your state that's on the ground. And if there's none there, you got to find one and tell us who it is. And then we have 25 states that we've already identified. And then the middle column is all of the bills that are running. So people are jumping in to put bills up and to get them introduced. So here's California's. California coercion bill. The government may not infringe upon, put conditions on, restrict, or take away a person's ability to fully participate in necessary important services, lifestyle choices, precluding including but education, daycare, employment, travel, religion, hobbies. So every bill is different that comes forward. Here's California's right to refuse countermeasures. The countermeasures that they listed in their bill were medical treatments or procedures, testing, physical or mental exams. So you can find this all on the website. You'll see these bills on the California website. Here's Massachusetts, and Julie's here. She helped draft this. No person shall be compelled by law to acquiesce to medical treatments or procedures, collection of specimens, or sharing personal data. So what you want in your law is what you try for, right? You draft your own laws. Another part of 1122, no employer shall terminate the employment of an employee solely on the basis of an employee's choice to engage or engage in medical treatments. And everybody does it different. Vermont passed a law, and they based it on some of their current law, recognizes the right of each individual to bodily autonomy to make the individual's own healthcare decisions and to be free to accept or refuse any health or medical intervention. So these are laws that are working to be passed in the states. And they're not going to pass unless they're completely supported by the people, because legislators will not pick up very often without your support and try and pass something this controversial. Coercion, and this is the part we did not put in the Minnesota bill when we first did it, but we're certainly interested in doing that now. So you do have that fundamental right, you just can't be coerced into giving up that right. So 2021 COVID, the legal challenges are a little bit different. They're not just based on the governor powers anymore. They're going forward and saying, you can't mask me, or you can't, mandate a vaccine. So we're tracking a number of the cases. I told one of our staff attorneys the other day, we have about 30 cases that we've reviewed, and the briefs are like 80 pages long. So we have to read all these briefs and say, there must be a website somewhere that's tracking all the litigation going forward. So he goes, okay, I'll check on that. And he comes back and says, yes, here's a website. There's 936 cases right now in the United States going forward, and that's just part of them. So a lot of people are using court systems to get what they want. So in the cases that we have looked at right now, I just brought up a couple. Oh, wait, here's Massachusetts right to refuse. Okay. This is Massachusetts law that they, new bill that they just put in. A legislator actually put this forward, right? A legislator came forward and introduced themselves. Every person has a natural, essential, and inherent right to bodily integrity, free from any threat or compulsion by government to accept an immunization. So that's in a very blue state, but it was put in by a Republican. But I think anything we can get in for the language to be, understood by people so that people can read what we want, that's really important. So you can grab any of these bills off of our website, the 150 on that. You can grab any of the ones you like and send them to your legislature. I want that one. I want that one. So you don't have to start from scratch. Okay, so here's a lawsuit that just went forward in 2021. So it was filed in the District Court for Eastern District of Virginia, and they sued. This person wanted a medical exemption because they had natural immunity. And when they sued, rather than having to go up the chain, the university backed down and took away. So sometimes lawsuits actually help, kind of threaten people into taking away a rule or a law. This is another one. The Michigan athletes were protected against vaccine mandates. And that's ongoing because it's a temporary restraining order. But the judge, the judge gave it, and I think that they let the students go back to practice in their sports arena. And it was good to see a judge give a temporary restraining order against Western Michigan University so that the students could continue. Now, they'll continue in court to get a permanent injunction. So we don't know how all these cases are going to play out in court. But at least that first judge said, There's enough here that I don't want this to happen. Here's another temporary restraining order, New York healthcare workers, and this is very, very hot case right now, and I'm sorry to say I didn't check to see the status of this case this morning, but the healthcare workers are really trying to protect their rights on sincerely held religious beliefs. And they did win the TRO, but there's a lot of controversy that they may not get a permanent injunction. So federal power. The federal government has power on travel restrictions because it's interstate commerce, products, employment issues, financial relief. But now this whole federal thing about employee vaccine mandates and private employers over 100 or more OSHA, this is the hot topic in the legal community because it's the federal government trying to go around our constitutional state issues of bodily autonomy and use a federal agency and employment issues to mandate employees. So a lot of employees are being asked to leave their jobs if they don't have a vaccine based on OSHA requirements. And the fact that they jumped into private corporations with 100 or more employees is a big deal, and that's going to be challenged. We don't know where that's going to go. But, you know, if you were courageous, you could put a bill in saying, you know, this state does not, you know, abide by federal mandates for OSHA on this particular, you know, just try it. Try different things. So all I want to say about this is thousands of cases are going forward. Our rightrefuse.org, we actually put a attorney referral list of organizations taking legal cases forward on the Right to Refuse website, because the website is just about legislation. It's not about legal cases. So there's a list of the Children's Health Defense are taking cases, the Siri law firm, the Pacific Institute, the Health Freedom Legal Defense Fund. So our organization really focuses on state powers. We work in states to curb the police power and protect personal liberties. So this is what I ask people to do. Try and uphold your Constitution, find like-minded people, decide what you are willing to resist, support legal court challenges, target the source of the declared authority, design a solution for the future, and introduce and pass laws and ordinance to take back our rights if they have been taken away from you in your laws. Who is representing you? You're representing you. We're all representing us now. We're all on the block. So this is our action organization. We do lobbying. And this is our educational organization. We educate, like I'm doing today, to let you know what's happening. We also are the founders and moderators of the United States Health Freedom Congress. We have not had a Congress of leaders coming together on health freedom during COVID. We're thinking of a future one, but we established the Congress to bring all of the leaders into a circle to get to know each other from all of these factions of the health movement and to reward them, honor them, and experience their collegiality with each other in this movement. So support your leaders in any way that you can when you're working with them. So here's our last Congress in 2018. And I'm just going to end. I have a couple minutes left. We have adopted principles of health freedom. They're basic principles to think about as we proceed to make laws about the sacredness of the human experience and our bodily autonomy. So, first of all, to be let alone to survive on their own terms and in their own manner. The freedom to perceive and to act as one wishes to secure health and survival. The freedom to access who and what one needs or prefers for one's health and survival. The responsibility to do no harm. The responsibility to respectfully tolerate diverse options in health, healing, and survival. The duty of corporations and institutions to be trustworthy entities. And in light of their special legal nature, I have 5 things to say to them. Honor and preserve the sovereign nature of individuals, the sovereignty of the United States, and avoid any negative impact on the sovereignty of other nation states. Honor and preserve American financial and cultural diversity and multicultural systems. Avoid creating or being monopolies and avoid the use of large monopolistic ownership of resources to dominate cultures. Avoid dominant control of natural resources. Avoid the suppression of access to natural resources. And this is my favorite for corporations. Avoid promotion of products, protocols, policies, regulations, or laws that would encourage unlimited dependence on corporations and institutions, or that would discourage, prohibit, or otherwise negatively impact the ability or will of humans and local human communities to survive and prosper without the corporation or institution. And the duty of the government is the last one, to protect the health freedom and to make no law or public policy abridging health freedom or its fundamental principles. So that's me. Laws and customs must be carefully reviewed, revised, and even repealed if necessary, and new laws created to reflect the development, evolution, and spiritual maturization of a people. And we're all responsible for these laws and the books. It's our voice. It's what we want the world to look like. We're an experiment on the planet of a nation of words, of laws, of intention. And we need to know what those say. And we need to be participating in how they're drafted and passed. Freedom is a conversation. There you go. Amen.
Thank you.